Lana adjusted the curve of her belly as she stood at the head of the conference table, one hand bracing against the smooth mahogany surface. The weight of her body had shifted in ways she wasn't used to. Pregnancy at 52 was uncharted territory. But nothing about her felt fragile. She had spent 3 decades designing some of the most advanced corporate buildings in the country, and she wasn't about to let a few swollen ankles slow her down. The presentation on the sleek screen behind her displayed the latest project her team had developed, a state-of-the-art smart office tower, integrating green energy, adaptive infrastructure, and automated workspaces. It was, quite literally, the future of architecture. She clicked to the final slide and folded her arms. "This building isn't just efficient, it's alive," she said. "It anticipates needs, it adapts to its people, and it eliminates waste. It is, quite simply, the pinnacle of what we do." The room stayed silent for a beat too long before David Mercer, the firm's CEO, leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. He was in his early 40s, polished and strategic, with the kind of smooth confidence that made people mistake arrogance for leadership. "Impressive work, Lana," he said, though his tone didn't match the words. "Truly cutting edge. But before we move forward, let's take a moment to address company structure. We're implementing some adjustments." Lana caught the glance he exchanged with Vivian Cross, the firm's HR director. A sinking feeling settled in her stomach. Vivian cleared her throat. "Starting this quarter, we're revising our parental leave policies. Given the increased insurance costs associated with high-risk pregnancies, we've had to make some modifications. Employees over 45 will not qualify for paid maternity leave." Lana's fingers tightened on the table. "Excuse me?" "It's a standard cost efficiency measure," Vivian continued, her voice deliberately even. "We analyzed risk factors, and it simply doesn't make sense financially to extend full benefits to employees who..." Lana slammed her laptop shut. "To employees who what? Who had the audacity to still be relevant past 45? Who built this firm while you were still figuring out where to buy your first suit? Or do you just not like the idea of a pregnant woman showing up in your glossy promotional materials?" The air in the room shifted. Some of the younger employees exchanged uneasy glances, while the senior architects remained silent, their expressions tight. David smiled that infuriatingly practiced corporate smirk. "Lana, we appreciate everything you've done for this firm. But this isn't personal. It's just business." She held his gaze, her pulse hammering. "Business. Right." Lana exhaled slowly. "Of course," she said, voice measured. "Just business." She collected her things, smoothing the fabric of her blazer over her belly. She could feel their eyes on her as she walked toward the door, but she didn't stop. Not yet. Because the moment she stepped out of that conference room, Lana knew. She wasn't going to fight them. She was going to burn them to the ground. Lana leaned back in her chair, staring at the email that had just flipped her world upside down. The words blurred slightly, not from pregnancy fatigue, but from pure, simmering rage. Her hand instinctively rested on her belly, feeling the reassuring movement inside. 30 years in this firm, countless high-profile projects, and now they had the audacity to strip her of basic maternity rights because she wasn't within the standard reproductive age range? Her phone buzzed. "Emily." Lana exhaled, already knowing what her best friend and employment lawyer would say. "They actually put it in writing?" Emily's voice was incredulous. "Plain as day," Lana said, clicking open the attachment. "Employees classified as medically high-risk maternal age are exempt from paid parental leave due to anticipated productivity delays and associated healthcare costs." Emily let out a sharp laugh. "Wow. That's not just unethical, that's practically an engraved invitation to a lawsuit." Lana drummed her fingers on the desk. A lawsuit? Sure, it would make headlines. But she wasn't just looking for a legal win. She wanted revenge, something that would make them feel the same powerlessness they had just tried to force upon her. She swiveled her chair toward the towering architectural blueprints pinned on the wall. A design schematic of the corporate headquarters stared back at her. A slow smile curled at the corner of her lips. The next morning, she walked into the office like nothing had happened, even as her mind spun through calculations. She knew every system embedded in this building. After all, she had helped design it. The firm's automated smart climate controls? She had coded some of the earliest protocols herself. The motion-activated lighting and power-saving modes? Lana's brainchild. She tapped a few commands onto her secure remote server at home, her fingers moving with the precision of an artist painting a masterpiece. By lunch, she had finished her first small test. Inside the executive boardroom, where David Mercer and his senior team were meeting, the temperature had been inexplicably rising. 82 degrees Fahrenheit. 86 degrees Fahrenheit. 90 degrees Fahrenheit. David loosened his tie, glancing at the thermostat. What the hell is going on? Lana walked past, taking a slow sip of her iced coffee, watching from the glass wall as sweat gathered at the collar of his expensive suit. Tech glitch, one of the executives asked. No, the system is automated. This shouldn't be happening, David grumbled, swiping his phone to override the setting. Nothing changed. Get IT on this now, he barked. Lana smirked. IT wouldn't find anything. Not yet. This was just the beginning. That evening, Lana sat on her balcony, watching the city skyline glow against the dusk. Her hand traced absent-mindedly over her belly. This isn't just for me, she murmured softly. This is for every woman they've ever silenced. She pulled up her system logs. Tomorrow, she wouldn't just be messing with the temperature. Tomorrow, she'd make the whole firm sweat. Lana arrived at work the next morning, carrying a calm, unreadable expression, but inside, her mind was already 10 steps ahead. She had spent the night refining her plan, testing her access to the building's automation system, and calibrating the perfect storm. She didn't need brute force, she needed subtle chaos. At precisely 9:15 a.m., as the Tuesday strategy meeting commenced, Lana activated Phase 2. The motion sensors in the executive boardroom, which normally dimmed the lights to save energy, began misfiring. First, flashing randomly, then plunging the room into total darkness. God damn it! David Mercer's voice echoed through the walls. A second later, the room flooded with blinding brightness, as if they were interrogation suspects under fluorescent heat lamps. Lana, standing outside, casually checked her watch. Right on time. A flurry of panicked voices followed. Who the hell is controlling this? IT says the system isn't responding. Jesus, fix it. Lana took a slow sip of her tea. Not yet. She wasn't done. By mid-morning, the temperature inside the building had reached a new level of absurdity. The executive floor? 98 degrees Fahrenheit. The staff break room? Ice cold. Lana listened as employees grumbled near the elevators. Is this a joke? My hands are numb. I'm sweating through my suit. Meanwhile, the HR department, where Vivian Cross had her office, had been programmed to oscillate, one moment scorching, the next freezing, like a malfunctioning cryo chamber. Vivian stomped into the hallway, fanning herself furiously. Who is in charge of building maintenance today? She hissed. A younger associate muttered, I think it's the same people who handle our maternity policies. Lana suppressed a smirk. Oh, that's rich. But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. At exactly 2:30 p.m., when the CEO and senior executives gathered for a high-profile investor meeting, Lana executed the final phase of her day's operation. She remotely activated the building's emergency ventilation protocol, triggering a mandatory air quality compliance inspection. The system blared. Air quality compromised. Building inspection required. Please evacuate immediately. Warning. Panic erupted instantly. Is this an actual emergency? Why the hell is this happening now? Someone call facilities, now. David stormed out of the boardroom, his shirt soaked from the heat, barking orders at his assistant. Vivian Cross looked pale, already scrolling through legal documents. Because here was the thing. Lana knew exactly what she was doing. The ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, compliance team would arrive within the hour, inspecting the facility's workplace conditions. And given the wild fluctuations in temperature, lighting, and system failures, this firm was about to be in serious violation of federal labor laws, the very same laws that protected pregnant employees. And when the auditors asked for who oversaw these accidental failures? Oh, Lana had all the receipts. That night, as she sat on her balcony, cool air brushing against her skin, Lana placed her hand over her belly, feeling a gentle kick. She took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. Tomorrow, they would learn what real disruption looked like. Because she wasn't just an architect. She was an engineer of consequence. And she was about to redesign everything. Lana arrived at the office the next morning with a serene smile. She walked through the entrance like a queen surveying her kingdom, except today, her kingdom was in utter disarray. The moment she stepped into the lobby, she was greeted by the fallout of yesterday's chaos. A group of compliance officers in crisp suits stood near the elevators, clipboards in hand, speaking in hushed but serious tones. Vivian Cross was pacing in the hallway, her blonde bob slightly out of place, barking at an HR assistant to find the goddamn building engineer before the auditors shut them down. David Mercer was nowhere in sight. Coward. Lana made her way toward her office, barely concealing her satisfaction, when she spotted her assistant, Jordan, rushing toward her with a conspiratorial grin. "They're panicking," Jordan whispered. Vivian had to call in corporate attorneys at 6 a.m. David locked himself in his office. Lana raised a brow. Perfect. By 10 a.m., the building was officially under compliance review. Auditors from the ADA Regulatory Board were escorted into the executive conference room, flipping through thick legal documents as they conducted their formal investigation. The temperature irregularities, the fluctuating lighting, the failure to accommodate a pregnant employee's workplace conditions, it was all on record. Vivian, attempting to regain control, put on her best corporate smile and insisted that this was an isolated incident. Then, the auditor adjusted his glasses and pulled out one final piece of evidence. According to internal correspondence from HR, your company policy specifically excludes medically high-risk maternal age employees from parental leave benefits. Can you confirm this is correct? The entire room went silent. Lana watched from just outside the door, sipping her tea. Vivian's face drained of color. David, finally forced out of hiding, rubbed his temple like a man watching his own house of cards collapse. Lana leaned against the doorframe. Time for the finishing blow. She stepped inside. Calm. Poised. Deadly. Actually, she began, placing a neatly printed document onto the table. This is what your corporate policy states. In writing. She slid a second document forward. And this is the lawsuit I've already filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Silence. Vivian opened her mouth, but nothing came out. David's hand tightened into a fist. One of the corporate attorneys let out a slow exhale, already seeing the impending legal disaster. Lana smiled. You wanted a paper trail, she said. So I made one. She turned on her heel and left the room without another word, leaving them to choke on the ruins of their own policies. By that evening, news had already begun to spread internally. Jordan forwarded her an anonymous email from one of the board members. Effective immediately, HR policies regarding maternity leave accommodations are under full review. Senior management will be making a formal statement by end of week. Lana laughed softly. By the end of the week? She had a feeling the press would be much faster. Because she wasn't just letting this die in some corporate meeting memo. She had one final move left, the one that would make sure this never happened again. Lana did not wait for corporate to review their policies, she made sure the world reviewed them first. That night, as she sat in her dimly lit office, the city skyline stretching beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, she composed one final email. Subject: Transparency Matters, an open letter on workplace discrimination. She attached every document, the HR policies, the exclusion clause, and most importantly, the EEOC lawsuit. Then, with a deep breath, she added one final recipient. Investigative journalist Amelia Hayes, Business Weekly. She hit send. Then, she waited. By the next morning, the internet was on fire. Business Weekly's headline spread across social media. Architect firm's age-based maternity discrimination sparks legal battle. Lana's inbox was flooded, supporters, legal experts, even employees from other companies who had faced similar policies. On LinkedIn, the post was already trending under multiple hashtags about workplace discrimination and pregnancy rights. By midday, HR was in full-blown damage control. Vivian's out-of-office email autoreply had suddenly appeared, which meant one thing. She was gone. David Mercer, once the confident executive, was now visibly shaken, sitting silently in an emergency board meeting. When a CNN business correspondent reached out for comment, he finally broke his silence. He stated that the company was taking the allegations seriously and was committed to re-evaluating internal policies. A vague corporate response, but it did not matter. Because the damage was done. Days later, Lana received an official notice. Her lawsuit had been fast-tracked. The company had two options. Settle quietly, which meant acknowledging wrongdoing and fixing their policies. Go to court, and let public scrutiny destroy their reputation further. They chose the first option. Lana did not want their money, she wanted systemic change. Her terms were simple. Rewrite maternity policies to include all employees, regardless of age. Mandatory anti-discrimination training for HR and senior leadership. A public commitment to fair workplace practices. And just like that, they signed. Lana stood in her baby's nursery, gently running a hand along the crib. Her fight had not just been for herself, it had been for every woman who had been told she was too old to start a new chapter. Jordan had sent her a final message. Her case had inspired a new HR bill being pushed at the state level. It was being called the Whitmore Amendment. She smiled. Some victories were not just personal. Some changed the blueprint for everyone. This is not just about one woman's fight. It is about how age discrimination still exists in corporate America. It is about how policies can be used as weapons, but only if we let them. What do you think? Was Lana's revenge justified? Have you ever faced workplace discrimination? Comment 2 if you love this story. Comment 7 if you think it could have ended differently. And if you want more powerful stories like this, hit like and subscribe to EN True Tales with Natalie. Because these stories matter. And so do you.